for everything. A time to be silent and a time to speak. My great aunt Joanne had a dream. Some would call it a prophecy. When I was 15, she dreamt, my great-grandmother said, Shalize needs to remember her heritage. Give her something to remember me by. And she gave me my great-grandmother's dress. It was a simple, everyday dress, blue with purple flowers, something she would have worn on a summer's day in Dominica. I still have that dress and I keep it close. But when I was 15, all I wanted was the latest clothing labels. I wanted to fit in. Back then, that wasn't cool. But my exuberant great-aunt Joanne, with her chandelier in her bedroom and her prophesizing dream, said, Shalize, you will do great things. My name is Shalize Nicholas, independent designer and owner of a sustainable British fashion brand. I aspire to make sustainable fashion the norm. The future of fashion is that people will take pride in investing in clothing made with thought, care, resourcefulness, and consideration. The future of fashion is that people will be conscious of the impacts of their clothes that they buy. In the future, there is no fast fashion. Fast fashion is obsolete. It is passé. But in order to get to this point, we need to be zero-waste fashion warriors. There's a time for everything, a time to plant, and a time to uproot. But first, let me tell you a little bit about my family. I come from a family of people skilled with working with their hands. Both my fathers are entrepreneurs. My stepdad is a jack of all trades, resourceful. My dad is a carpenter, well known in Dominica. My mother is skilled with money. When she was little, all her siblings worked in the plantation. She hated going, but she loved going to collect the money. But let me take you back a layer. My grandmother was very hardworking. She owned her own plantation in Dominica, and everything she planted, everything she grew, she cooked. My mum used to say they never got too close to the pets because... But I'll take you back another layer. My great-grandparents were all farmers, and my great-great-great-grandfather, as a child, he was a slave. As a man, he was freed. Now, every one of them, working in manual labour, was skilled with working with their hands. They instilled in me what some would call a good work ethic. But for me, I'm just doing what I love. If you look at the decisions you take to purchasing clothing and consider the whole life cycle of a garment, what impact could that have? How many of you have clothing sat in the back of your wardrobe that you have never touched? Hands up. Now I know for sure that I'm too included in this. My lifestyle used to consist of buying for trends, parties, events, festivals, and work. It's something that we're all guilty of. My family and I used to always visit the markets and malls every weekend. We used to have the best of times, weaving in and out of the market stalls, looking for something to spend our pocket money on. Usually the latest trends, whatever I'd earned from washing and cleaning the car the day before. I usually spent it. I'd always loved shopping, as it was my favourite pastime. So I began working in retail at the age of 15 and pursued a career in fashion. Took my first work experience at a wedding shop and found the industry so wasteful. I was shocked at the amount of waste for just one wedding dress produced. If you think about the last wedding you went to, how stunning did the bride look in her dress? Well, I saw the same amount of material used for that one dress, the same amount being thrown away. The current established practice for mass-producing clothing prioritises efficiency of speed, leading to massive inefficiency in terms of use of materials. I couldn't understand why when making clothing, we couldn't reuse the materials and scrap. I found the industry was just so wasteful. This was a moment of reckoning for me. And as I continued on my journey, I wanted to make a difference. I went to work for other suppliers and designers and saw the same thing happening. Overconsumption was a huge part of retail. Online shopping is arguably even worse and has been exacerbated by the pandemic. The fashion industry is the second largest pollutant in the world. So how did we get here? Throwaway fashion came in the 2000s. Buying to throw away became the norm. If you added up all the value of all the unworn clothes in every household in the UK, it would come to £36.7 billion. Around 9 billion tonnes of clothing went to landfill in 2018. So unless we want the planet to look like a still from WALL-E, desolate, filled with rubbish and no people, we all need to make a change. And this is happening because the industry is just so fast-paced. There is no time at the beginning of the process to look at the end. I speak from experience because I did question it, and every time I tried, I was shut down. Fashion is a bottomless pit, were the words spoken to me by a leading fashion industry expert. Even my trusted mentor at that time advised me not to question the status quo if I wanted to go further in fashion. I could have continued on designing for consumers' ever-changing needs, but when I was at a crossroads in my life, I chose the route that most told me I would never succeed in. I chose to make a difference where the industry was failing. For the past 8 years, I've been building and honing a sustainable brand with a zero-waste ethos and practices of slow, sustainable fashion. There's a wastefulness at every single stage of the manufacturing process, and I am committed to salvaging the waste at each of these stages. There's a time for everything. A time to tear and a time to mend. What if your jacket's life cycle were circular? Every element of its waste attended to. What if your trousers had the individuality of end-of-line, vintage, upcycled clothing or materials? What if your clothes were not only aesthetically pleasing, but timeless, lasting longer than the next trend? What if your favourite piece was handed down through the generations and it felt good, both the fabric against your skin and the knowledge that you're doing your bit for the planet? What if you free yourself from being a follower of fashion to joining those of us that are zero-waste fashion warriors? Zero-waste fashion warriors are creative. We wear for purpose, not fads. We find other ways to accessorise our clothing and reuse clothing in different ways. We are free. So remember I told you that shopping was my favourite pastime? Well, now I can't remember the last time I went shopping. My entire outfit today has been styled within the zero-waste ethos. These trousers were dead stock, meaning they had a tiny defect that didn't make it through production. I fixed the issue, personalised the pockets, salvaged from the scrap heap. My jacket is made from end-of-line materials. The whole roll of material was rejected due to a problem with the weave not fit for its purpose. Well, it works for mine. What do you think? And this top is a brilliant example of how we in sustainable fashion give clothing a second life. This used to be my friend's jumper. She was decluttering and now it's my wrap top. But you don't have to be a designer or even know how to sew. I empower everyone to become zero-waste fashion warriors, to fix an item of clothing. If there's an issue with your dress, don't throw it away. Get it fixed up, spruced up, debobble that tired-looking sweater, and if you can't sew, get to know someone who can. We can all start with making a change, and the change starts with us. There are so many ways to be sustainable, and if you really don't want it, donate it, but make sure you do your research on the place that you're donating to. Many times things that go to charity ends up in landfill because it doesn't sell. There's a time for everything, a time to keep and a time to throw away. When I first started my business, naysayers would say, "What difference can you make? Why bother? You're only one person. Why would people buy from you?" My question was, why not? Some would say it's just a cheap t-shirt. But if 5,000 people still have that same mindset, that's 5,000 more t-shirts in landfill. This is the reason the planet is in dire straits. Instead, we should give consideration to living more thoughtfully. We can all make a change. As a designer, I love what I do. I've always loved and been passionate about it, but I did choose adversity. I felt so strongly within myself that this was the necessary choice to make. My nephew Isaac is 2 years old. I've already started upcycling his wardrobe. I want a zero-waste world for my nephew to grow up in. I want him to be in a world where there is a future. So I'm setting the example now. It's the decisions we make that form a lifetime. In recent years, we've seen a wave of change over the fashion industry. Slow fashion is necessary to save our environment. There's a time for everything. And now is the time for the zero-waste fashion warrior. Thank you.